I would. Good.
Yep.
I would ask that we make one change to the agenda. Number 7, stone wall repair at the Mendon Public Library. Thanks to Brent, he reminded me that we did that as an add-on 2 weeks ago. However, I did leave off that Jim LeGrand, our assessor, was coming for a presentation. So I'd like to delete stone wall repair and add presentation from Jim LeGrand, the assessor, at number 7, if that's so moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we'll move on to public comment. Anybody? Okay. Communications, Andy?
Just not much different from last meeting, working on Pittsford Men's Center that is gonna get all changed tomorrow. So it'll all be striped and to the new
Just wrote them,
zigzag way.
and it was very easy.
And it'll even be better once we mark it and everything.
Michelle?
I don't have much. I've been in jury duty still. Start week 4 again tomorrow. Installments are done being taken in now for school taxes. So now they can come in and pay only if they're paying in full. So we've entered that phase. And then the mobile mammogram is this Saturday from 9 to 1. The Monroe County lady called today and said they only have had 4 people sign up. So her staff is going to push it, and then I'm going to push it some more, and we're going to touch base again on Wednesday, but they won't come out if it's just for 4 people. So
Where is it again?
it's right at the community center. They'll pull right in the
Okay.
parking lot with it's like a big travel trailer.
Okay, yeah, I know, I was just
Yeah.
wondering, because I know the fall parades this weekend, so.
It's early though. It's 9 to 1.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was trying to kick off because starting
Yeah, but
October is
I
Breast
just
Health
was
Awareness
concerned it
Day
was
or
gonna be on
breast.
Facebook or something.
No, yeah. Gosh,
Yeah.
so if push it if you know anybody to call.
I've been pushing.
Thanks. And if not,
In every.
I know.
Stall and.
thanks. I appreciate you doing that too. Yeah. And it's been hard for me because I haven't been around. So I'm trying to get it out there. But yes.
And
Do we have something on?
And it's
bulletin
free.
boards?
There's
Supermarket?
yes,
Yeah.
it's been on Facebook. Karen presented it to her work. There's I've been trying to get it out there. Angela Hollick has it posted. I've done is I have tried to get it out there, so we'll see. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Sheldon is absent this evening. Brent?
Had a planning board meeting on September 18th. They had a sketch plan pre-application meeting for a property on Mendon Ionia Road near the county line. Possible cluster plan, 17 homes. They're looking at. Could be higher, could be lower. They've got some challenges. There's E-pods. There's some variances they may need on how they go, but no, this is just the initial sketch plan review. So they just got some feedback from the planning board. Go back to the drawing board and see what they can do. October meetings, got a couple single families, and then they expect the development at Mile Square Road in Taylor. They have that 8 homes, strip homes along the front. So frontage lots. They've been working on this since last August, I believe. The planning board asked for some information. They submitted it. Attorney and engineer is going over it right now to make sure it's complete and they're ready to move forward. If they are, they'll be on the October 18th meeting. We have that application down on Pittsford Mendon Center Road that went to the HPC and the EC. The planning board requested some information. Reports from the neighbors is the applicant is out collecting the data. The neighbors want to know if it's moving forward. If anybody asked you, they're collecting the data that the planning board asked for. At Mendon Center, right down by Topsman Drive.
Okay.
Spray park updates, been there. That's later in the agenda. We have it. Went to the September 19th Mendon Community Business Association. They have this Wednesday, September 27th, there's a Lafayette Trail ceremony down at the corner of 64 and the trail. That Diane Ham worked to put up that sign. They're dedicating the sign. It talks about Lafayette. I learned much more about it. The last meeting, he came, the French general that came and walked through and explored America shortly after the Revolution. Wanted to see it.
When you first started. I
Uh,
missed that.
Yeah. October 29th, they are pushing for a holiday trick or treat on the trail. So another
Cool.
Hamlet event.
Cool.
Angela Hollick is pushing forward with that, trying to coordinate with Meden Foundation. The November 29th, so the Wednesday after Thanksgiving, they have the holidays in the Hamlet again. They have got the task force they're forming for the April 9th solar eclipse. They think they're going to move forward with the tagline of Sun, Moon, and Mendon. And they're starting to think about maybe having a weekend full of events building up to it. They're saying that school may be closed that day. It might be school's just going to shut down and have a holiday for it. So that's what they're looking for. And they're also talking about possibly having a spring event down in the Hamlet. So possibly 4 events a year. And I think that's great that, business is leading the charge and support what you can. Their next meeting is October 17th. And I almost forgot, October 19th from 5 to 7, they've got a Cottage Hotel book signing. Somebody wrote the history of the Cottage Hotel, included that they're going to be down there signing the book, have them for sale. If you don't get it then, I think it would be available by Amazon. I don't think it's going to be in any local stores as of yet. I think we talked briefly about, it might be, I know we have a lot of books downstairs in the town clerk's office. If it's clean enough of a book, there's not too many risque stories in it, maybe consider putting it here.
Well, we have a murder and mayhem.
Murder and
I
pain.
know, that's a little scary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was a good book.
It is, yeah.
Oh, and then finally, this is through my business. I got a email today. New York State Department of Environmental Conservation is passing new laws with regarding construction activities on agricultural properties. So they're basically going to start enforcing stormwater regulations on agricultural property, such as breweries, wineries. They're admitting, okay, there's a commercial aspect to it that you need to do. Probably get some pushback because usually agricultural properties are exempt from all of this. It's not the town, it's the state that's coming down and saying that this needs to be done. So when people pull you aside at the grocery store, guess what they're doing to me? It's the state. That's all I have.
Thank you. Karen?
Just that I am planning on attending the benefit meeting with John and Kelly on October 2nd.
Cindy?
I have nothing.
I want to thank everyone and I want to apologize to Michelle and Andy. I sent out a text inviting everyone to the open house and I didn't realize it was just a text of the board members. So you were not included on purpose. So. But anyways, I want to thank everyone that came. I thought it was a great success. with a
Oh,
lot
I
of
did
kids.
too.
I think there was a little bit of buzz on the community page and had some parents. The thing I thought was great is someone kind of dragged the kid there and he saw his buddy there and it's like, I'm going the first day. So in the same, along the same vein, I just have to send a text. Well, actually, I'm going to send it I'll talk to Denise and the bus is going to be available first day. It's going to be the same as last year. You have to be sent in with a note that your child will be riding the bus. The child will not be allowed on the bus unless he's on this designated list. And they're doing everything through, what's it called? Parent Square?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. So I don't think you can do it through Parent Square.
Which has a QR code.
Yeah, exactly. So I asked, I said, is this something we do with Parent Square? And transportation's like, so anyways, but we'll get some, publication out there of the location, so.
How's staffing it for that?
Staff, we're waiting for the background check on, one individual. The most recent hire, but we still could use another, really, one more person. Just to
Did you get any response from Elam?
No.
I had it put up on the student board.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Most of you, I sent an email out regarding Odie Bancer. You know, Odie was a good friend of mine, and we had a lot of laughs together. And coached his son Kyle when he was 8 years old. Unfortunately, Kyle's now 50
Oh, geez.
plus. But you know, great family. Odie, always a smile on his face. Great guy. Just big loss to the community. That's for sure. I've talked to Al Reeve, our attorney, about the payments due to various contractors regarding Spray Park and Military Memorial. He has advised me not to make any payments, even though Labella has approved the 2 of the 3 that are outstanding to Whitney. We've got some more I's to dot, T's to cross before we get to that point. Not trying to penalize anybody here, but we also need to have a stick at the end of this project to make sure everything was done properly. Brent and I met with Al and a gentleman from I forgot the company now, but anyway, he was a concrete expert, so to speak. Walked the concrete down there, and we're awaiting his report at this time. Let's see, we received the budget for the Mendon Fire Department. You know, I don't get many of these, but I did get a very nice appreciation of Michelle retrieving somebody's raincoat from the community center. And the lady who left it there was very much appreciative of Michelle getting it for her. And along with not so great news, Corey Gates' father-in-law passed away. The services, the last name is Stetter. If you're looking up arrangements,
I'm sorry,
Stetter, right?
Stetter.
Lima, right?
Yeah, Doherty.
Yeah. So I believe the arrangements are calling hours are Friday. So too much unfortunate news today. We'll move on with budget transfers. There is a void here as well as 2 to approve.
Make a motion to approve the budget transfers for the 2023 budget as delineated.
Any discussions?
Can you just explain what these are?
Sure. So the first one was that's the finances for the anvil.
Oh,
I mistakenly last month that thought we still had a fair amount of money in contingency funds and should have checked. Totally on me. So we did take it out of judgments and claims instead and moved it over to traffic control, which is the one for the approval. And the other one is to have from community center improvements to town hall improvements is later in the agenda for approving having the trim painted on this building.
thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. So we'll move on to number 7, which is Mr. Legret and the assessment. Wherever you're comfortable.
I've never met you before.
You have
I'm Karen Jenkins. Nice to meet you. Thanks. Thank you.
So that's a mention of the,
Yeah.
Have it there, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll get it.
It's pretty sure.
Hear about your assessment.
So I'll listen to you.
So, is it in general, with regards to town of Mendon assessment update? Other with the intent of furthering discussion. We've seen on the first part of the letter, we haven't done an assessment update since 2017. And prior to that, I believe the update was done in 2007. So, in 10-year period, we've done an update, townwide update twice, which is a little bit color than how it evolved. The market equalization went from 100% to 68% in 2023. And you can see the years staggered from strong years to recently we dropped to 10% in 22 and then actually 15% between 21 and 22 and then another 10% in 23. So New York State certified our equalization rate at 68% for the 2007 withdrawal. Pretty much in line with a lot of other towns that haven't done any updating within Monroe County. COVID, it's in the market. Take a lot of see on it, and now we're in similar positions to making decisions in terms of what the next paragraph in terms of the trending of the appreciation in the market. Next year was 14% and 13% 22 or 21, 14% and 22. Those 3 years combined at 41%, so-called appreciation in our market. And prior to that, we were sort of fortunate, trending upward at 3%, 20, 3% and 19. Historically, the market throughout Monroe County has been stable to slightly increasing. Pre-COVID, it started to move, and then been pretty frantic or unprecedented pace since. I think those purchased and those that have sold realize the benefits of selling. Certainly not a benefit to be purchasing these days, but we'll see where the trend moves forward. But the state always analyzes the past 12 months in terms of figuring out their trending factor. So the past 12 months, it's probably been the strongest months I've seen in terms of the pricing coming through. So I anticipate at least 10%, possibly upward to 50%. That will be determined around December 1st by New York State. And equalization rate for years, most towns, including Mendon, we were at 100%, 95 to 100%. If you have a statement certified at 100, it's just not possible in the market dynamics that we're dealing with today. So, again, throughout the state, I think prior sent some correspondence around to the town board with varying Erie County and Onondaga counties, and for many towns throughout Erie County that are in the 30% range, and similar in Onondaga County. I think the town of Clay locally, regionally, has the. So it's a lot of communities downstate are under 10%. They haven't done them updates in 50 years, 70, 80 years.
really?
Yeah, it's really. Yeah, it's a big to do. Has been a big to do. When to act, and some municipalities downstate have started to do some updates, but as you can imagine, taking a value, they're equalized every year on the tax roll, so you can sort of see project where values are headed. But, there's a lot to that. And the state really doesn't let you stagger, up to 100%. They did allow it for one community downstate, Queensboro. They don't typically like that. Do an update, we want you to do a townwide update on all properties, commercial, residential, vacant land. In the past, state would participate financially and reward or assist or reimburse the town for updates, the financial costs associated with an update. They still do that, but the budget is much less than it used to be. I think last year, prior year was like 750,000 category, expense category that they had across the state. So you might be fortunate to get $1 or $2 per parcel. I think the last time we did it, 7. So that's a nominal person that, with regards to the need to, they don't report, they're not, and another component of the state is even regionally out of Batavia, that's our regional office. They used to really say force, but they used to promote updates more frequently. And they wanted you to have a cyclical assessment update plan. And that typically was a 4-year cycle. But they, do it 2017, they'd like you to do it again in 2021 or in between. And for a while, a lot of towns were doing annual updates throughout Monroe County, basically looking and trending different neighborhood segments. And that's sort of gone by the wayside because of the craze in the market. But and the next paragraph is, the assessment department in Mendon is, the way I look at it, it's full-time and responsibility, but it's part-time in hours. I'm a part-time assessor and our 2 clerk part-time. Town of Rush, town of Mendon, town village of East Rochester, and the town of Wheatland. So 4 communities throughout Monroe County that are in a part-time capacity. Mendon, historically or prior to, I think Jean Loper was the supervisor, or I know she was the supervisor at the time. Wayne Pickering was the assessor, and she transitioned the role from full-time to part-time. It can be done. I've been doing it since 2013 on a part-time basis. It can be done, but challenging to do everything, or including an update and stature of.
What's part? How many hours?
I work 10 hours in office, and then I work other hours, off hours at home.
Okay. Like 20 hours?
17 hours. It's
17.
what I'm committed to. See here, and our prior valuation consultant, he passed away a couple of years ago. Dave Miller, he was outstanding. He worked in the business for 35 plus years. He was a valuation contractor for at least a dozen towns throughout Monroe County. And he would piggyback his analysis and information. So it was efficient for him to work with that number of towns. But in return, typically we would pay $5,000 to maybe $10,000 a year. I think our update year, we paid about $10,000 for him to do the analysis and update information and rebuilding our models and so forth. And he unfortunately passed away, and now we have 2 regional contractors which don't take that same approach. As you can see by the proposals that were submitted. Firms, more regional firms, they are very well respected, long-time government, participants in the assessment world, and entered Monroe County. They generally work out of Erie County, but they're familiar with the market and follow the updates that they've done locally with the different towns, Penfield, Veronica, Henrietta, and now they're currently side Harlem and Ogden for 24. And with involvement, and Canada also, with involvement from the assessment office, the assessment they can come out properly. You know, they still don't know the market like I do in terms of residential. I'm not a commercial expert, I'm a residential expert in my profession. So they, you know, they send in folks that are experienced to assist in the process, but it's a critical component of the review of evaluations, and I would certainly have a strong hand in that, and hopefully it's my responsibility to sign the role, so I'd have to be involved, and I think you would want me involved in the town residents would want involved in that local level. Formal proposals were requested. We've been through a couple of different versions of what they've submitted. And even what we submitted, there's a way to, I think, narrow down or slim down the cost component. As you can see, ENPM, well, they've got a full for basically 110,000. That includes 25, 26, and 27. You know, just as a comparison, I know Arundecoit is a much larger community. They spent in excess of 300,000 for their update. And I know Henrietta was up around 200,000. So it's a costly endeavor. But if you look at it on a per parcel basis, it's really not that costly because there's a lot of analysis and work needs to be done. Our overall, I think, our overall budget and expense as a department for the town of Mendon, for the really viable east side community, is relatively low. You know, say take for instance the town of Parenton, okay, it's a much larger town, but they have an assessor, full-time assessor, they have a deputy assessor, full-time, they have 2 real property appraisers, both full-time, they have 2 to 3 full-time clerks. Well, they've got a team of 6, 7 people to really attack that internally in-house. And even when they do it in-house, they still need outside assistance for some evaluation. Sometimes informal reviews are done on the outside. So, there's a lot to it. You know, in addition, and then GAR, who's been well received in Monroe County, but you know, their price at 150 to 175, I think is a little bit excessive in terms of what needs to be done. In addition to, you know, the initial update, they would have costs associated with 26 and 27 moving forward. The point of the Penn State, or I was this morning, we talked about that. Crazy the market, you beat 100% this year. Actually, it happened in Henrietta. They did a state in 2022, they were 100%. And had significant increases across the board for the residents. And then in 23, they came back with a 14% increase across the board, and the residents were not happy. And so I've seen that in a couple different communities throughout the region and regionally. And it's at times you can only, I think, go after the people's pocketbooks in their mind some of the times. They have a plan in place. I know Livingston County, they do it every 4 years. So every residents know every 4th year you're going to have an assessment update. Orleans County does it every 3 years. I wish that Monroe County had a plan similar so that we could, you know, everyone could be on the same page, so to speak, for the residents. Followed the recent activity of some of these updates. It gets pretty, you know, thing out there in terms of how the residents respond on a grassroots movement, their social media movement. You know, how many people on the assessor?
I knew Jim for like 5 years before I started here, and I never knew he worked here.
This is stressful. I mean, it can be stressful. I try not to let anyone get to you, but John can attest to the course of my 10 years, a couple of situations where I was sort of upset about it. Physically, it just, but I've since learned from that and would try not to let it out. It's just assessment.
Yeah.
So, there were some other resources that would be needed, mailings and so forth. So that's with regards to the assessment update. And again, I had a couple of comments with the Parenton was looking at it in 24. We were backing off of it, but the village of Fairport was looking at an increase of 80% across the board. Pittsburgh was looking at it in 24, and it looks like they're gonna be pulling out of the update 24. Plus across the board residentially, Class A properties, so. That's a pretty sharp increase when you got a, $500,000 assessment, and you get a 60% increase on that. We're gonna certainly take note of it, and whether or not it equates to the market value or not, chances are you're gonna show up at the town hall and test it, or at least have your day in court, so to speak. Increases, guard hearings with the smart money assessment reviews. Towns have had, Penfield had over 250 last year from one individual called tax opposer. We had 3 from the tax opposer this year. Around quite 200 SCAR hearings. And similarly, last year, Mendon has a higher predominant pricing point. It's a little easier for the tax rep to reap the benefits of an assessment reduction. They typically get paid on 50% of the reduction in terms of the tax savings over a 2-year period. So if you do even a $50,000 reduction times 2, it's pretty lucrative to those folks. So they would do specific mailings. They do specific mailings when updates are done. So that demand on the office would be much stronger. We currently do not have any, I don't believe, any active Article 7s, which are Supreme Court filings. We've had a handful in the past. Latest one, Pine Brook Apartments in the Tractor Supply Company filed a couple of years ago. And they did file for grievance the last 2 years, but I haven't seen any paperwork with regards to formal Article 7s that came through. They got a tax rep out of Long Island, files across the state. But those can come up much stronger. I mean, the town does have legal representation for those, but appraisal costs can be expensive. Just anytime you enter the legal world, costs associated with it. So, I'm seeing commercial property just stirring up for the bee's nest with commercial property owners. They take notice, and Mendon has a lot of properties in the multi-million-dollar category, if you will, and of the in that category, the ownership based have the means to, or Mr. Galasano, for several years contested his in the town of Mendon on 2 different occasions, 2 different Article 7 cases, and in addition to contesting his cases, he went out and educated the public and tried to stir up the many people responsible to file grievances. But we're fortunate that we don't have a lot of grievances currently, but that certainly would change in the update here, which is goes with the territory. So with regards to those costs, I think they can tailor it a little bit for our needs. But the next component that I sort of put down here was if a formal update is not done, I feel like my office is a little bit antiquated in terms of resources. I've survived a little updates in 17 with getting new land models and getting new town models and getting new cost models. I felt more prepared to defend any increase that I do put on properties. Now I can still do it, but I have data that so I need to get some updates to the department at some point in the relatively near future, not next year. So if town does not go through with a townwide update, I'd like to see some approval either through additional funding or resources on budgeting or possible terms for the assessment department utilized to bring up some of the resources and needs for the office. In general, when you do a assessment update, again, even with all the sharp increases, there should be a significant reduction in the overall tax rate, both from a school perspective, all taxing jurisdictions. For example, Penfield, when they did it in 22, their rate went from 40 to under 30. And, so if you know, you're getting. There are many folks, unless they were really above the curve in terms of the increase. Paid relatively the same or a little bit less. And that's typically what it's. Conformity and equity is a component of assessment. And the further you get away from 100% equalization rate, the harder it is to maintain those two key components to real property tax law. But getting back to the communities downstate that are in a single digit equalization rate, you manage with what you have to deal with. Assessment office standpoint. Like so, yeah. And again, part of it would be to educate the residents through social media. And just stay in front of the residents so that aware of what's going on. But I was mentioning to John this morning about another meeting we had. That was about another topic. I've sensed the past couple of years that through whether or not it's the economy, COVID, or whatever it is, there are a lot of residents that are on edge financially, and really concerned about every dollar. Many of them. I think our community is fortunate that there are a lot of folks that have the means to carry on, but I see through exemptions and what people make. So it's or $200, whatever the amount is. It doesn't take much to get some people really upset and big stress. So everyone has a different level of stress that they can deal with. Questions or observations through the data that I sent?
Got a few. I mean, well, you talk about some are 3%, some are 10%, we're at 68.
Yes.
How do you accommodate that? If somebody buys a home today for $250,000 and our equalization rate is 68%. How do you work your model?
I don't do anything. So in a non-assessment update year, I only have the ability to raise assessments based on inventory changes that are identified upon. So if that home, say, was a flip, that price segment, it could be a flip, and just transformed from top to bottom without a permit. I can go through and then identify that, okay, there's physical improvements that can be added to the assessment roll, but it can only be added to the contributory value of those improvements, not really capturing the market activity and appreciation factor. That can only be captured when you do a townwide update. So any new construction, like these homes, say Wolfsburger Park,
Yeah.
or any throughout the community, but Wolfsburger Park, those properties are some right now for pricing that I've seen on section 1. So they have an assessment of typically just over 300,000.
Okay, so you're adjusting
you have to equalize. Before when we were at the 97, 95, 93, I think we were one year. Sort of hedged that a little bit.
Yeah.
And they had 100%, if you will, unless you get called out on it. I with it. And I think a lot of towns did that, even a lot of very seasoned, some of the top assessors in Monroe County. They were always at 100%, so they really didn't know how to deal with this equalized value.
Okay.
On the corner in Webster, she's one of the top assessors in Monroe County also, and across the state. But they're in the 50 range, and they haven't done an assessment update in over 20 years. So they had some litigation with Xerox that prevented them from doing enough. But she knew the dynamics of it. But you can't be 100%. You can't sales chase. There's a welcome stranger real property tax law in New York State. I can't arbitrarily change your assessment just because you paid $500,000. If I can identify those material changes, I can.
Okay,
So that answers the question.
absolutely, yeah. And not that I'm suggesting anything here, I'm just asking devil's advocate. You're committed 17 hours a week. If you were full-time, is this something you could do in-house or would you need help?
I'd still need help. I don't have the analysis skill of the RPS, the model building, the mass assessment component. There are very few people in our county that do that.
Would it take you a full 2 years to complete if you were full-time?
Well, if we had the modeling,
Yeah,
yeah, I think, well, again, if the modeling was in place and everything was in compliance from a state standpoint, there's a possibility that it could be done. Sure. But having to have, I would need to rely on the outside vendors to do the statistical modeling and so forth. And I think from a town standpoint, because in their experience with even Aronico, I don't know what's going to become of it, but people call you out today. If your analysis isn't correct, if you're not in total compliance with state regs and so forth, the question him or the filing Article 78, look to repeal it. I thought they were going to do that in Canandaigua recently because it wasn't, in my view, I moved a long time ago, real estate appraiser, do a lot of such litigation work in there. Appraisal business. And probably on the table, and especially when you have residents with the means to fight every component of job, it gets challenging. So outside assistance would certainly be needed. I can certainly do more. And I want to be involved as much as I can be involved with, but I think balancing the two components, I did it in 17, but it was different. It was a totally different environment. And it was challenging. I didn't do everything that needed to be done. And Dave truly didn't do everything that needs to be done today either, or again, in comparison to what's expected today. That with the valuation component, being able to defend it. I think I heard through the assessor and Aronico in the past few weeks that there's some residents that are upset over their update, and they're looking to foil every component of the model and value stuff that it's done. Out of the question. Otherwise, and how potential, why you asking for it? You don't quite know what the motive is behind some of these requests, but it's trying when you get called to the table. So I don't have the expertise on the mass assessment standpoint, so I would rely. I'd like to have that skill with an outside vendor so that the town is protected with an update.
I'm curious, if I'm doing my math right here, GAR is almost twice as much.
Yeah.
As EMPM, correct? Because
Yeah.
they're hitting us for each additional year.
Yeah.
And EMPM has got it all included.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a little bit surprised there too, but I questioned Gar on a couple of different occasions. She actually sent me a revised proposal, which I didn't present because it's basically taking, basically down to about where E and PM was, put everything back on the town. Back on my desk. I said, no, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't even make any sense to me. When you've got to spend $100,000, you need to get something out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just getting something out of it. So, the town that we would benefit by out of different things. And again, even if an update isn't done, other resources, have photography, have a picture of every house that's in there. Granted, we can do that in-house, but there are costs associated with that. Travel, people out in their car driving down, liability, the situational things versus,
And they do it every day.
right, having a vendor go out and do it for $3 a parcel, on $12,000 and it's done. For modern photography, if it's attached to the assessment parcel, that's one thing. And then once the models are current, it's much easier to make modifications to them so that, we're not in this, looked into it, it's a little dark. It's been 7 years, so you can see, without putting the resources forward, it's been fine. We haven't had, again, we don't have any Article 7 cases, we don't have people screaming and moaning in general. to every-
Sometimes.
There's-
Yeah.
If we did the dated stuff, two-part question. First of all, is how many years would that be good for to update your model? Second of all, would that help us with our equalization rate?
No, the second part, no.
Okay.
We would not do anything with assessment updates, but it'd get the information current, get the office current. So when the time might be right to do an assessment update, it's a lot easier to move forward. Another, deal with NPM and GAR, they use different modeling structure than what Dave Miller did. And I remember Dave always talked about it. He'd come up here and meet, and Dave would say, yeah, GAR's got this modeling, and I don't agree with it. And what's the matter? So they all have their proprietary modeling concepts and practices, and what's right or what's wrong. That's what they do. That's what you have to adapt to. So in effect, actually that was one of the issues I had with GAR, because I had heard, through the grapevine, but through a resource in Ogden, their proposal was much less, like 75,000 with GAR. So I asked Cindy, I said, what's the deal? You got confidential all over it, but it's only, people talking. And she said, well, in reality, a lot of the things that are, once they get involved in a project, they figure out they can't use your land table, they can't use your town model, they can't use your file factor for commercial properties analysis that they use. They have to do their own. They can't modify what Dave did. So I know from the start that they're going to have those models as a place. So wanted to approach it realistically, saying that you're not going to modify what you have because it's Davis no longer with us. And each of you have different components to your process. And that's another, there was a lady that retired from Ontario County Real Property Tax Office, and she was going around similar, assisting more towns in or municipalities in Ontario County. But you're in the same boat that at the end of the day, she's retired a couple of years ago as a real property director, without freelancing on the side, making some money, working with some communities, 6-8 communities a year. But when she decides to truly retire, sort of where Dave was at, Dave was going to retire a couple of years ago, so he would have done anyway, retirement wise. You're back to another vendor to assist your valuation needs. GAR and EMPM are not going away, so they're going to be around. They're out in and out, but they've been around. GAR's been around for probably 60, 70 years. They've got different specific for assessment candidates. They work for a lot of people, throughout Buffalo, Rochester, now certain Albany, GAR's big in Albany.
So with the 3-year trends, we probably won't be 100, but we can expect to be maybe high 90s if we go with the trends.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
the towns, they're not the town, pardon me. The state is going to get their pound of flesh no matter what we do, because they know.
Yeah.
And by us having a lower equalization rate, they get our money, but what it might be hurting are the people that get star and enhanced star. They're not getting as much because that's based on our equalization rate.
yeah, there's a reduction in both of those.
Yeah, and the trends might slow down,
Correct.
but they're not going to reverse.
I don't believe so, but there might be some, 2008 market that we had, real estate crisis. Actually, we do have a national election coming up here in another year, in a few months. That could impact change in administration, and interest rates are a 20+ year high, from 2.5% plus in the shelf secured to 7. They say they're close to being digits, 20+ year interest rate components. But I just read an article last week that the town of Pittsburgh is in the top 5 of the U.S. in market activity, home selling at price above asking price.
Yeah, I read that.
And the scarcity in the market, this basic supply demands in the whole, region. Upstate region. There's just mind boggling, shake my head every day. Walking through it, we talk about it down in the assembly, but yeah, everyone's is aware of your neighbor in town. And stuff's down $400-500, $200 plus a square foot for
Yeah.
30-year-old homes, $250 a square foot. The village properties that are given were before $300,000 really.
That's right.
$400,000.
Get 'em up there.
$200,000.
Sell that house and make a million.
Story housing. It's the nature of the market. And for a while they were here. Those aren't market sales. That's COVID. That's it's crazy, but the state pretty much verified every sale as a market transaction. Supply demand, the definition of market value. Over time, historically, so there could be a dip in the market, but it takes a couple of years to pick up with a dip, but I wouldn't anticipate it really crashing the market in county. Interest rates going down.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Not soon after the election.
Brent, I don't want to
Trump.
interrupt you if you're in a serious.
Oh, no, go for it.
Thanks, Trump.
I was just wondering, Jim, from, my own, sake, in your, experience, town goes with whomever to do reassessment.
Yeah.
Now it's time to do the next 2 years, you're kind of in line to do your updates.
Yes.
Have you heard of towns going after the reassessment going, forget it?
Yeah.
And if that was the case, that we signed on with these people, are we financially responsible for still paying them for the updates if we go,
No,
no, we've had enough headaches?
yeah, I think with ENPM, I was a little bit surprised when he sent his update. I haven't confirmed it, but he included 25 and then early trending for 26 and 27, similar to what they just did in Henrietta. But you would not have to, if we went back to them and said, hey, we'd like to back out 26 and 27, what's the price? 80,000. I think historically he had sent me one about a year ago, and I think he had about $10,000 in for 26 and 27. So it could be down to 80,000. And there's a big component in ENPM quote also that I think I can get involved with. This is the field review residential with photos. That 46.5 is actually the biggest component. I think a lot of that potentially could be handled in house, but I need to work through the dynamics of that. So your point, John, if it's 110, you knock out 20 for 26 and 27, you're down to 90. And if you can knock that 46.5 and say half, we'll get down to 65,000. And I think then, maybe that might make a little more sense to do an update. That's not too far off. In my view, the estimate that it would cost to do, some of the resources that we would need, to get up to snuff. And believe me, we don't need them immediately. I survived. I haven't really made requests for it, but I'm feeling the pinch here a little bit. Not immediately, but if we don't do it in 24 in terms of the updates or office resources needed at some point in the distant future, we're going to need to do some things, decisions. It's not this year, but so I think that there's actually somewhere on here or here this last note. And I always get it. I've stated this in assessor association meetings regionally to these people. They come in to give a presentation. I said, well, we're a small town. I'm in a small town. Everyone's budgets are tight. We're going through the budget process now. I said, I expect people to come up with $200,000, or town to come up with $2,000, or $200,000, or $100,000, and it just doesn't seem feasible to me. As the assessor, I understand. They got a job to do, and they're in business. They need to make a profit also. But they always come back with, if this proposal is more extensive than what the town is looking for, our services can be amended to accommodate your needs along with a reduction in our fee. So, we could come back and say, I could come back to them and say, you know what, we've got resources for X, $50,000 or $60,000. We want to do an update. What can be done? How do we do it? And see what they come back with. They tell me to see you later. I don't think they would. Gar, based on what they proposed, I probably wouldn't. For pricing every time I told that to them, back when I
It almost feels like a go away price.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm quite interested. I get it,
Yeah.
I know that I do. You guys have said.
But
With all the 3/4 of them X'd out. With a fee of 95,000. I would sign up for that at all. I think to your point, John, the ENPN, if I went back to them, or if you wanted to take it another step with them, I think that we only have so much in terms of resources. And how can we do it? Can it be done? Or no, it can't be done. And decision to just update some resources. I don't need everything at once either. I just got about $30,000 in reserves, so some of that funds could be used for some of the modeling and so forth. And get some things up to snuff and then let it ride.
So, a couple of things I wanted to express mostly to the board, because I know you know this, Jim, but we're the taxing authority for the town of Mendon, so we're responsible for the assessment. So the other taxing authorities within the town of Mendon, for instance, the Mendon Fire District, the village, the county, those kinds of people, they don't share in the expense of a reassessment. It all falls back on the town, which in turn, this is the part that drives me personally crazy, is that the state wants us to do this. They're going to give us a couple of dollars a parcel to do it, which is probably going to cover the cost of paper and
Pictures.
copy. Yeah, and then we're going to ask our taxpayers to give us money to raise their assessment, which is going to cause, it's a big circle. And that's a discussion for another time and another place, but that's the part that frustrates me personally as an elected official and as a resident, that you're kind of stuck in the spot, and the longer you wait, the lower it goes. The lower it goes, the harder it is to make a change. When Lima made a change a couple of years ago, I mean, it was, if you followed it on social media or talked to any of the people in Lima, it was, a rough patch. And, people do not understand when there's a reassessment, they just go, okay, my property value just jumped 50%. My taxes are going to jump 50%.
Oh, yeah.
That
Right.
is not accurate.
No.
And,
But it makes sense to people.
well,
I mean,
yeah,
that does.
yeah, it does. It does. It does. I agree. People think that makes sense to them, but there's a huge educational piece to this.
Yes.
And I know I've read lots of stuff, and I know Jim knows the stuff off the top of his head, but that is key to get something out there. If you're going to do something like this to your residents well in advance and educate them and put it in a way that it can be understood, because it's not that simple of a process. And I talked to people in Lima who were like, I think I'm going to have to move. And I was like, whoa,
Yeah, no, it's
hold on, you need to see what the rates are, because obviously you've got school, you've got town, you've got county, and sometimes village, depending on where you live. And when we did our update back in 2017, we dropped our rate
Yes.
And most people, I think, found that in the end, at least for the town, they were paying a very similar number. Did it fluctuate a few bucks one way or another? If memory serves me, I think mine was within $4 or $5.
Yeah, and we did, and that was going from 2007, 2017, so that was a long stretch too. There were some folks that did have significant increases, but it was prime time. We had a lot more grievances that year. Yeah, that's another, I didn't mention it, but there are a couple of Board of Assessment reviews, longtime Board of Assessment review members that I think would be running down the street. Man, I remember I was on the board prior to being assessor. I sat on the board for about 10 years and then maybe actually almost 15 years. I've been with for 25 years. So I know for 15 years I was a board of assessor review member. Mike Spiegel was the assessor. We were up here till midnight, 1 o'clock, several nights, several days. Enfield had weeks of assessment hearings and have that massive formal grievances, hundreds, 400 grievances, I think. Let's say Penfield had 800 grievances because they were similar. We hadn't updated, I don't think, since 2013. But for years, you could sort of feel okay. Because we assessed, the market didn't move at the first part of it. And another thing that hurt us, I didn't mention, is it happens. After 4 years, if you don't do assessment update, the state comes in and analyzes your commercial properties. You take a 10 property, so-called random sample, and analyze them and set what the assessment should be. And was a big jump between the 2 years ago. It went down like 13%. And I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm convinced that the state has funny numbers that they throw at you. Because another factor to the equalization rate is what they call the residential assessment ratio, RAR. And that can be a little bit, but our RAR is actually below our equalization rate at 68%. It's probably hovering around 63%. You take 1.05% of your RAR to blend the overall average of the EQ rate. But I think when the state, in my experience, when the state analyzes your commercial property, they have a tendency to move your rate in line with the RAR, so that you can claim consistency in those two rates. But they don't think they ever. That's the seen it. So they were right. They did it at Brighton last year. He was at 9%. And the state came in and analyzed 10 commercial properties, and they dropped to 70%. Sure. But so sometimes you're in a no-win situation. Any other questions that are relevant?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very helpful. Jim, while you're here, I just want to say that, I think you said you've been here since 2013.
Yeah.
That sounds about right to my memory. But, I obviously I knew Jim long before that, probably known for a good 25 years. And Jim's done a great job. It's not a huge department. They do a good job. And a lot of the non-assessment type thing is with exemptions. And a lot of that is with our seniors population. And I know when Michelle was in that position, and Katrina is now, generally takes care of those. That's huge with our senior population. Just it can't be understated.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we talked about in the assessment community that we spend so much time administering exemptions and just the paperwork of our assessment calendar. It's plentiful. I think I have a statement in there. Month to month, week to week. There's plenty to do, especially with Wolfsburger and at some point in the near future with the amended green houses. And there's always something to do with the assessment line. But the valuation component, which is most important, takes a back seat at times. And it's just the nature of how we are. And fine. We have a good department and we try to treat people fairly, honestly. Mistakes are made at times, but occasionally have one or two
Every once
correction
in a while.
errors a year.
Yeah.
Fine. And there's usually one or two residents that really send me off the charts, but I've learned, I don't want to say the hard way. I know.
That's when we jump in, we take care of it. Yeah.
Residents slam the door.
He'll be like, oh, Jim had a bad day today.
But I've gotten better. Maybe last year I had one person that was upset with me. Tried to treat people with respect. In the end, it's just a second one.
I always enjoyed working with you, Jim.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I've been in town hall during non-normal business hours and Jim's here. I've driven by and seen Jim's car here. He gets his work done and it's done properly and accurately and he does a great job. And I think it's an asset to the community really, because you see how many scars and
Mhm.
Article 7s we get and it's, you know, compared to what 3,900 parcels, I believe.
Yeah,
It's a pittance.
yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Welcome to stick around.
Yeah, I'm sorry I extended the meeting.
Yeah, it's all right. Good to see you. Good to see you.
So we'll move on to number 8, which is town hall painting. Is
Staff for painting exterior town hall, including that top its gutters, downspouts, dormers, and cupola, not to exceed $20,000 from account A1620.411.
Second.
any discussion?
This is what you've been trying to get a bid for more than a year, correct?
I think it might be going on 3.
Okay. So, yeah,
I've had some pricing,
okay.
but it was astronomical. And I will say that I believe you all have their estimate, which is at where is
Table price $17.
it? 75.
Okay.
Now, the reason that I have $20,000 there is that they're gonna find some rotted wood up there. When they start moving. This is an old building, should have been painted years ago. You look up there during the day, there's bare wood there. Is somebody who owns a house that was built in 1880. You start poking around painting, you're gonna find rotted
Sure.
wood. And so there's gonna be add-ons. I'm unfortunately confident of that. So that's why I bumped it up a little bit to give us a little bit of leeway there. Because, birds that are living in this building and, various other animals and various other things, they're gonna find stuff up there it's gonna require something other than. Let's put it that way.
So this does not include the paint. This is $20,000.
Oh, no, that's it.
It says paint will be provided by customer or we can buy paint to be reimbursed.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you are correct. We would provide the paint because the color, is been approved by SHPO.
Right,
So we want to make sure that we, stay with them. on that.
It's something, your price.
And we checked into the recommendations. They appear to be somebody who, and the fact that they think that they can literally start tomorrow and wrap this up before this painting season ends. I'm thrilled if that happens. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Next is the contract with Kelper Hahn and Hyatt. Used for professional services.
I'll make a motion to enter into contract with Kepler Hahn and Hyatt Professional Services, concrete issues, spray park, military memorial, not to exceed $3,000 from capital project H fund, pardon me.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
This already been done,
We already met with them, but we don't have the report.
but so we've already told them that we needed it.
Well, pending board approval, yes.
Okay.
What are the concrete issues?
What are they?
Yes.
Brent, do you mind?
As you know, we've had more than a couple of discussions of the concrete down there. We're seeing a good bit of cracking. And the discoloration. We are seeing, what I referred to incorrectly, according to this gentleman, was spalling. It's a surface, I can't remember.
Scaling.
Surface scaling. My biggest concern when I was looking at it is they shrank concrete cracks. I think that typically happens sooner, like over the winter, and these things seem to be cracking now. The discoloration of the advice that we were getting previously, I would say was not what I was hoping for, did not give me a warm and fuzzy. We were hoping to get a second opinion. When I think, you know, I recommended that we get our special inspections, test the concrete. We paid extra money during construction because this is something we don't want to be concerned about. Concrete's, I won't say forever, but it's 25, 30-year thing. And just wanted to make sure before we settle up with everybody on here that there are no structural concerns. We were told cracks not to do anything with them. We wanted to get a second opinion. Should we treat them? He also looked at the granite monuments. And we're going to see a different opinion that he comes across than we got from before that said that there's nothing wrong with the granite, that it's just included. So we're getting a second opinion because
Is
we
this
weren't feeling too.
Something that we could get reimbursed
Right.
for?
It's about.
Well,
Attorney?
everything is negotiable once we reach the end of the project.
Okay,
So the other thing that I would mention is that when we talked to Labella about putting a dollar value on everything that was on the punch list, they put, I believe, $1,000 on the concrete. And I know Brent, myself, Corey, we were skeptical of that amount. That's a very minor amount. For instance, if it was determined that there was a section that had to be removed and repoured, $1,000 isn't going to go far. It's not even going to get a concrete truck done.
I don't even think you can have people show up at site for less than $500.
Yeah. So we were concerned that that was an appropriate amount before we release any more money to for payment to Whitney. So this seemed to be the most prudent way to protect the town's investment. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. I'll move on to budget. Budget discussion. This is the tentative budget that was proposed 2 weeks ago. Had a chance to talk to some of you, correspond with others, and
That's gonna, those increased DD 3300.1.
Yes.
Budget discussion, okay.
yes, that was Tom and I had a chance to sit down and go through a few things. And then corresponding was increase the 17,000 from appropriated reserves in DB. And then we also would be increase the taxable assessment in town outside the village due to SCAR hearings from 775 million, et cetera, to 776 million, et cetera. Which is what Jim was talking about, is the SCAR hearings that he's had, because we first proposed the budget. The taxable assessment we used was what the residents proposed in their small claims. So at this point, we can talk about any other changes you'd like to make. We can move forward, whatever the board would like to do.
second here? Or, and then discuss, or this is just a pure discussion?
This is discussion.
Okay, I just saw the votes at the bottom. I just.
Yeah, it really. I don't really have a motion there, but
Yeah, okay.
I really had it on for discussion.
Okay,
And then if someone would like to move it to preliminary, that's really the next one there. So there really shouldn't be a vote at the bottom there on this one. This is more of a discussion portion of the process.
I will bring up what I've been, and I talked to, I did talk to John about this. But I've been talking. There is concern about the building and grounds budget. For personnel going from 65 to 130.
Mhm.
Now I understand that Kevin will be going from part-time is half-time, like 20 hours a week.
Correct.
Yeah, to 40 hours a week. No, 40 or 35.
40.
Okay.
That's what it's.
Yeah, okay, I guess I was just.
Not necessarily, I mean, the board can do whatever.
Can do whatever they want.
They'd like
Yeah.
to.
And then there are a couple other, couple of other part-time people. Is that, what makes up that increase? And I know we talk in generalities. I know you sent a note to Cindy today that was a little bit more specific, and that was helpful.
Have you seen that? No.
The one you sent to Cindy?
Yes.
Yes, I have. I have it right
So,
here.
so you want me to expand beyond that?
No, I
That would
just,
be helpful for me.
I could just read it off.
Go ahead.
Okay. So full-time, obviously 62,400 for, that would be, Kevin. I have questions about that. Part-time, 10,400 trimming cemetery and restroom cleaning. So is that a cost we currently pay?
Yes.
Okay. Part-time, 15,600, open and closing, and cleaning the community center. I assume the youth center's in there as well.
Actually, the youth center is in the second one.
Oh, okay.
I forgot to mention that.
No, it's okay. No problem. But that's a cost that we're currently paying now anyways, right?
Numbers 2 and 3 on.
Yeah, those are things that are.
Correct.
The
So
under,
we pay
under
right
the 65, yeah.
I wouldn't say that's what we pay right now, but I would say it's slightly more than what we're paying right now.
Yeah.
Figuring that we would, at the organizational meeting, when we set the hourly rates, I allowed for some minor increases.
Now, the next one I have again, I have a question. 22,360 amount currently used by highway employees for building and grounds.
Correct.
And that's money that is paid to the highway department? Okay.
Well, it's paid to those employees who are doing work.
Who are doing the
buildings
work.
and grounds.
Okay. And that continues.
No.
Wait, no, it doesn't continue?
Well, it would continue to be an expense.
Yes. Okay, but it doesn't continue with highway?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's currently being given to the highway department?
I wouldn't phrase it that way.
Yeah.
I think, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the highway guys, when they're doing this work, they bill it to the A fund.
Correct.
So that 22,360 is billed from highway personnel doing work on buildings and grounds.
So if you're gonna put that in another, is that what will the highway department do then with those?
For buildings and grounds,
Yeah,
I don't anticipate anything unless, there's a need or something
so
special.
we were using them when they weren't on a project to do buildings and grounds.
I mean, is there a reason that it's it's no longer building, or it's no longer
Well, it-
utilizing highways money. I mean, it's money out of pocket.
Yeah.
it's separating buildings and grounds, which has kind of been the path that we've been taking for the process of taking care of our buildings and grounds.
So we're gonna add that to, they're gonna have an additional, because they
Who's
won't be able to build that, the highway department.
Highway department's line.
That will be an added expense for them because they won't be able to build that.
But they won't do the work.
If they're not doing the work, then they would free them up to do work on the highways.
And right now they're not able, they have time that
Well,
they're not able to do highway.
I'm not aware of that,
Okay.
but there are plenty of, projects of highway projects related and shared services and things like that. That come into play. That's the highway superintendent's responsibility as far as what they do and when they do it outside of the 284 agreement.
So buildings and grounds is basically going to be run by town hall.
Well, there'll be a department head
And why are we doing this?
so that we can have a buildings and grounds department that can take care of our facilities.
We've got to remember our facilities are growing.
Where?
We've
I
got
don't
the,
see facilities
we've
growing.
got the
Let me give
community
you-
center, we've got the spray park.
Yeah.
We've got the Girl Scouts are in the front of the community center right now. You've got the town hall.
That's all property we own.
I get this.
So
and
there's
it's
nothing new.
But they,
It's not, but for the last, what I've seen, everything that has been done has been reactionary. And we're trying to be proactionary instead of, well, like, for example, if you see the gutters and everything, it's been 3 years that we're trying to get it done. If you go back to that estimate, you'll see Kevin's the one that organized that and got that taken care of.
Mhm.
Previously, that was taken care of by the supervisor.
Okay.
Okay, so, and another thing that's Kevin is doing is, and I should refer to as Kevin, this position that he's doing is getting an inventory and a maintenance schedule. If you'll recall, I think it was a community center where all of a sudden we found out that the furnaces were way out of date and we should have changed them years before we have that problem. He's putting together what is
Like a
done.
preventative
in the-
maintenance.
It prevented, but he's actually, and he is, his experience is maintaining multi-properties for apartment homes, stuff like that. So he's very familiar on how to get in front of all of this, the preventative maintenance. So we're not reacting to,
Is-
oh no, this is falling apart.
so,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, is that, I mean, but he's going from part-time to full-time, doesn't that take into consideration? And I kind of have a concern about that because I know he was making $30 an hour, 20 hours,
Yeah.
$30 an hour, 20 hours a week. And to say you're gonna be full-time, so we'll just double that.
No,
That's not how it works.
But
That's
that's,
the way
but
it
that's not, but it's not doubling it. B, you've also, I think as we talked, we've had discussions of the sidewalks, the snow removal, the
Okay.
sidewalk snow removal.
Yeah.
So you're talking about somebody, it doesn't snow from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday.
Okay,
You know what I mean? That snow's got to be taken care of. There's,
and that would be Kevin's job.
that would be that department. Is it
Not
gonna
the
be,
highway department.
is it, that's where we're getting into the discussion, because I think last February, we had the discussion because the library
Library didn't get.
and Kevin is working 20 hours a week, Monday, Tuesday, half a day Wednesday, and it snowed outside of those times. So they had to get somebody to take care of them.
So,
No, it's going to be a full-time person and 3 part-time people, 4 part-time people.
I think instead of looking at it's, I know it's listed as part-time people, but this is what we are currently paying. Is you don't know how the cards would fall. And
but
to
we're
the extent of,
doing it without adding additional headcount.
Part-time employees.
Now we're adding headcount.
Yeah.
Right now, we're
Well, I
paying
mean-
it without adding additional headcount.
right now, let me pass these. For instance. And I will, before I hand these down, I want to make a the highway department, and when it comes to buildings and grounds, and when it comes to highway work, has done an exceptional job. But their main job is to take care of the highways.
Mhm.
Buildings and grounds is, somewhat of a second nature to that department.
Mhm.
And our buildings and our properties need something that is where it's their first priority. And this, for instance, I'm gonna hand these pictures down. To me, and this is not a reflection on anyone or any department. But these are the things that I'm doing now. Okay? I don't bring it to the board. I don't let you know but when I see stuff that is, in my opinion, unacceptable, I just take care of it. And these are the kinds of things that we need to have a department that will take care of it, keep our properties up to snuff, looking good. And quite frankly, the four corners in the hamlet. I know it's in the state right away. I know it's not our responsibility. But next time go through the hamlet, stop and get out and take a look at all the weeds growing up between in the sidewalk, the curb, the brick areas. That's not helping our commercial area. And I'm not, as I say, this is not a negative thing about any department or any employees. They do a great job, but we need to do more. We're putting flowers up in the hamlet. We're spending money. We buy the flowers, we water them, we put up the flags. It all looks great, but I'm ashamed of what the four corners in the hamlet looks like. I'm ashamed of what that library looks like. I'll be perfectly honest with you. And that's why I believe we need the buildings and grounds department.
And
But I don't think we need a $64,000
I
person. to do
think
that.
I've got to add to that.
But that's somebody.
I was down with John and Kevin weed eating the cemetery back in May to trying to get them ready for Memorial Day or Mother's Day because there wasn't enough time in the buildings and grounds.
Mhm.
I was down with John down at the spray park, taking the plug out of there because we don't have buildings and grounds. I mean, but
And again,
and I'm sorry, obviously I feel strongly about this.
And
I think,
to-
I think this is $30 an hour. You're not
Is
talking about it, you're
really-
not talking about a maintenance person.
Excuse
Hold on, please.
Can we
You're
not
talking
interrupt each
about a
other?
Maintenance person. Okay, we're talking about somebody that knows how to set up this department and its buildings department. $30 an hour is the low end of the starting rate for this person. It's 30 to 35. If you go lower than this, you're gonna risk losing Kevin, and we're gonna have to re-advertise for this position, and we're gonna have to try to find somebody at the same rate or lower that is competent and dedicated.
Yeah,
I keep on-
I question that.
I mean, I hear that, but it's also like, hey, we need someone to shovel sidewalks, whatever. Sure, we can do better than $30 an hour shovel.
That's why we have
The other
every part-time people.
Yeah, I know. I understand in these pictures, I understand, I've seen it before, but doubling the budget of the building and grounds department is gonna help us get rid of a few weeds.
Well, and another
help-
thing you gotta
give me some-
remember too is we're pulling money out that was used to be paid out of DA. Correct?
Say that one more time.
It used to come out of DA, now it's coming out of A.
Yeah, and as far as that number for some, and I don't want to pick, I've never met Kevin, and I've heard great things about him. But we're big on salary surveys. And look at the salary service and what comparable things look at our town employees. I mean, that ranks them up in the top 5.
Right.
Yeah, town employees. I mean, that puts them, I'm not gonna start naming employees, so that puts them ahead of
Many of our employees.
so it just
Department
seems,
heads,
talk about a department that's a full-time person and 3 part-time people. I mean, it's not like you're talking about,
Yeah.
you're not
if they're
talking
the
about,
department head,
what's that?
a department head, are we comparing the department heads or other employees?
It
Did I
doesn't
miss a
need to be
meeting where we
department.
decided that we needed a department head for building and grounds?
When we put out the ad, it was for a full-time person.
We put out the ad, John and I, we did a lot of work with Pat Kennedy over at the youth center.
Washington.
Well, Pat Washington, I know it was his president. But anyways, and we were paying him to do this kind of stuff. And then my impression is like, yeah, we don't have to pay him anymore. We got Kevin, he's doing that stuff. I mean, that was the impression I got when we hired Kevin.
Right.
Yeah. So now we've gone to, okay, now he's department. I mean, when did that?
Well, I think that's what we're talking about now.
Somebody, I think, Brent, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what Brent's trying to say is that if you're going to have multiple people working in a department, somebody's got to be in charge of that department. And that's.
But that doesn't need to be a department. It could be a leader, could be,
Can I just finish?
sure.
Because I'm really trying to not interrupt anyone. So I'd appreciate the same courtesy. So what I'm saying is that when you have somebody who has a skill set like this individual has, who can fix things that, quite frankly, the normal person can't. Somebody without a skill set, somebody who knows who to call for this and that, even when it's beyond his ability. That is important. And since I've been here, I've seen these facilities go downhill, quite frankly. This is an old building, needs a lot of work. The newest part of the library was built in the mid-70s. We're talking about a 50-year-old there. The oldest part of the library was built in the 30s. Things have been, we have had a situation since I've been in the town where we wait till the wheels fall off and then we get it fixed. And when we do get it fixed, we have to a lot of times, if it's something specialized, we have to reach out. I was lucky enough to get Pat there again. Pat's an old friend of mine, did it for the town. Nearly as much as he used to for the town, but he won't do it for anybody. And he's slowed down because of quite frankly his age. Larry has done our electrical work for years, does a fantastic job, absolutely charges us, but he's slowing down too. But we really don't have, in the past, prior to Kevin starting, we really haven't had anybody. When Scott was here, Scott Kimball was here, when Jerry Fox was here, they served in that position, so to speak, when they were available, because their first priority was the highway department, and it absolutely positively should have been the highway department. But when we could free them up, they would do some other work. But it was here, there, and everywhere, and it's. I really think it's important to be able to maintain our buildings and properties properly. And quite frankly, I don't bring it up to the board every time something like this happens where I see something that I feel is inadequate, and I take care of it myself because I feel like it's my job to take care of these things. But I also know that when the complaints come about our buildings and our facilities, I know who they call. And I've spoken to everybody who's called, and I wouldn't be for this if I didn't think this was a good use of funds and employees' time.
Well, I will tell you, we have maintenance, our electricians, plumbers, very skilled, and they're not at $30 an hour.
Right.
Ever were they 30 an hour, and they could do all of that. So I'm very uncomfortable with that.
I mean, part of my concern is that we've added a department head apparently, and we've hired a couple of part-time people, and I'm just finding out about it because I happen to notice a doubling of a budget in building and grounds. I mean, did we talk about, this is a great presentation, but probably not the presentation to be giving in a discussion for voting on a budget.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't want to say I feel blindsided. I don't. And that's way too strong a word. But when I talked to you today and you tell me, oh my God, it's skill sets and all that stuff, I was like, no one ever explained this to me. So I mean, part of it for me, it's just like, where did this come from? And you're explaining.
I guess I'm not completely understanding what you're saying, Tom. For the first part, like you feel like you're being blindsided.
No, no one ever said, we're really gonna do what you said already. Man, library out front, the weeds in the hamlet, whatever. We really need to do something about this board. What should we do about this? My proposal is maybe we get a building and grounds department and hire the. I mean, that seems to me.
And you're saying we haven't had that discussion.
Yeah, that kind of. I mean, I feel like it's not a discussion that would have been had if this number didn't stick out like a
Right.
sore thumb.
But I didn't know there was, that Kevin was a department head. I don't remember naming him a department head.
He's not. He's not. What we're saying is
But you just said he was.
in this budget, that's what is being proposed, basically.
But it doesn't say that here. How would we know that if discussion didn't just come up? And I get what Tom's saying.
I guess
we-
that's the discussion during the budget of questions through the budget. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm just saying.
Well, no, I didn't take it as insulting. I would hope you wouldn't be insulting, but it doesn't say here department head and it says personnel from 65 to 130. On the other lines where personnel is listed, that's like a main person. And then staff is below that if there's staff. I just see personnel.
I mean, John kind of explained it to me the other day and I was kind of, okay, all right. But when I got, and I asked Cindy for that, by the way, because I was talking to Cindy and we had a mutual concern about that line and she said, well, John sent me something. I said, you might send it to me. And she did. And when I looked at that, I'm like, oh, did I miss a meeting or something? That's what it felt like.
Well, to me, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg. So how do you identify a problem? The only way to solve a problem is, unfortunately, in this situation, is by spending money. And in order to solve that problem by spending money, it has to be in the budget.
But I would think that.
It would be a collaborative.
Yeah, but it's not like here, I came up with a solution. Here, you guys go sign it.
I didn't say that.
No, but that's what's being asked. I mean,
It's my job to come up with a tentative budget and
Yeah.
present it to all of you.
It-
I did that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Now it's our budget. And in order to move it to preliminary status, it has to be acted upon.
Yeah.
So I am more than, I don't take offense to any changes the board wants to make in the budget and the tentative budget. This is the process that's set up by law. So I don't take offense to it, but by the same token, I also have advocated for various things in the budget throughout this budget and other years that I didn't come to you, for instance, and say, hey, let's put, and I could be wrong in the number, I believe it's $25,000 into assessment reviews because Jim Legret just gave us a presentation tonight and it ties in with to me, it's the same thing. We're talking about needs of the town and how it ties into the budget.
yeah, I'd see that as different because I mean, you have expenses that come up, but you're talking about the structure of of how town business made. But I mean, I don't know if this $20,000. I don't think it's probably you probably didn't count on that to make the payroll, but
I'm sorry, I'm not following you.
no, I'm just saying that when you say $25,000 for assessment, yeah, there's all the Legion, even the door for the Legion, which I asked you about, the $50,000 improvement in the community center. We talked about that. This is big. This is like, oh yeah, we're making this guy. Again, when you said making him full time, I was like, I don't have a problem with that. But then when all of a sudden we got a little clarity on it, what I was trying to say to Andy is, so you basically do $20,000 worth of work for buildings and grounds a year,
Just mowing the properties,
just mowing the
the
property.
cemeteries and all that.
But this has cemeteries on here. Denise, oh, this is-
Those are all A accounts, which I really didn't.
I mean, how do, what do they use? What is this new mowing person? What's he gonna use for mowers? Do we have mowers in the building and grounds department?
Yeah, we just paid for it. A
Okay.
brand new one out
Okay.
of the A fund.
Okay, great.
Uh,
Then that's, they answer my question. That's it.
No, I wanna give you as much information as I can. So I really want to make sure that you're comfortable with whatever you decide tonight. I just want to make sure that I have. Guys, it's gonna take me a minute to find it, and I may have to go to. Folder, which will probably take me more than a couple of minutes to find it. So, the first 13 pay periods of 2023, there were 559 hours charged to buildings and grounds.
How many hours was that, John?
Five. 559 I have. Yes, 559. So those were things that highway department people, and that included Odie and that did. So I took that number, doubled it, because that's 6 months of the year. And quite frankly, figured a lower hourly rate than any of the highway personnel are currently working at, as far as the full-time employees. It does include the dispatchers. So the way I figured it was that way, we, the people, I'm not suggesting that we hire Kevin and he do all the mowing exercises at that hourly rate. However, we can have someone do those kinds of things like mowing and trimming at a lot lower rate. And so that's what I came up with.
I guess my question is if your employee, who again, you pay for when he comes over and cuts the grass of the community center or whatever, is that a good use of your, I mean, does that, if he's not cutting the lawn at the community center, is he on other jobs? Is it, for you, I mean, what's your opinion? Is it a wash to you?
This year's been kind of busy because if you notice, you're mowing grass every 3 days.
Yeah.
Or whatever. This year's been crazy. So he
Yeah.
mows 3 to 4 days a week. And if I need him, I'll steal him off mowing. He comes with us, drives truck, whatever. If not, he mows it. Then if we don't need him, whatever, he keeps himself busy, mows all the trails, he trims all of the trees around the shop, dead ones he takes down. He's always pretty busy. But there's probably, if we want to put it right to a specific things, these are the 5 things you have to do. He could be done with those 5 things in probably 2 to 3 days, depending on the weather and all that, caught up and on to something else.
So, I mean, my question, and again, amongst a few of the questions I've already voiced, is why are we paying out of pocket something that we have in house? No, I mean, that's
That
in the
was
budget.
what my point was.
Yeah, we have someone that does that.
My point is that the individual that does most of this work does a fantastic job. However, other things need attention other than that.
And that's fine. I mean, it's almost like, great, then that $20,000 part-time employee, whatever, that can shovel their sidewalks, if he doesn't mind coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning and cut some grass, he can do that kind of stuff. But the mowing, I don't understand, because we have people that could do that.
Right.
And seem to be doing it now. Again, the weeding and stuff like that, obviously that gets to be too much of a task for that department. And I don't have a problem having someone that's specifically, that's their chores, keeping the weeds at bay and keeping
Right.
the front of all these buildings looking presentable. And if he's got time to do the hammer, then more power to him. I'm saying he, but it could be a shame. So I mean, that's my point. We have people mowing. Why are we going to utilize? Why are we gonna pay someone else?
Unfortunately, I don't have those people at my disposal. And because I don't have them at my disposal, I quite frankly can't get things done that need to be done when complaints come in. When complaints come in and they're reasonable complaints and it's something that could be done relatively quickly, I don't have those types of people at my disposal. And somebody who headed up that department doesn't have that person, that type of person at that department or at that time. That's where things just get done. Things get done. And if there's a legitimate complaint from a resident and I go out and check it out and it's something I can do, I just do it. It doesn't matter if it's between 8 and 4 or a Saturday or Sunday, it gets done. I don't report all that to the board. If you want me to, I'd be glad to.
No,
That's
No,
But
that's
I
all of
think
our
an important
responsibility.
part of this is that should not be falling to the supervisor. That should not be following the town. But I'm saying maintenance of buildings should not be falling to the supervisor.
No.
That should be going to buildings and grounds.
Yeah, and we hire someone full-time, maybe not $30 an hour. We hire someone full-time to do that. It sounds like Kevin's a great guy and
Let me,
I'm happy to work with him.
what do you think is a fair rate? Hourly rate? All I've heard is not $30 an hour.
No more than 25. And I have had
The
it
ad ready.
approved that.
Get the ad ready.
when we put the ad in, I had one, and we
I
didn't
have
mention,
local Rochester salary surveys that I can show you. And 25 would be more than enough for that job.
For building and grounds.
Yes.
Now that seems low to me, but
I think that's very low.
I participate every year in that
yeah.
salary survey, so I have the data.
I mean, these are people who are going to can actually do light electrical plumbing, that kind of thing, or people who can run a lawnmower.
People who can light electrical and plumbing and fix machines. Yeah.
25 an hour for a skilled labor that mechanically, it seems low to me.
Yeah, that seems low, but again, that's not where I would choose. I'm not.
I'm not doubting it, it's just, I know when we ran the ad, we had one ad.
Well, he's making 32 right now, part-time, so it's almost like a kick him to say, oh, by the way, you're gonna look for and pay less money. So I mean, and again,
I'm sorry, what were you comparing it to?
no, I'm just saying when he's using numbers like 25 and 28. I mean, he's making 32 or 34 right now. Who? Kevin. Half time. 30. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna take a hell of a sales job to say, hey, can you work full-time for less money? So
And no
and
raise,
again, but I don't think, what's that?
and then no raise
Right.
too.
Right.
Yeah, see, I would be willing, if Kevin's been working here, and again, am I gonna pull a number out of my ear? I don't think so. But I would be willing to extend it because Kevin knows the campus, he knows he knows the job or whatever, but I can't get, I'm not sure I can get to 50.
51.
50,000. We're talking about salary.
Oh.
The salary of this full time.
Hard time.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm having a hard time following.
Sounds like numbers guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said that to 2 of you guys this week. So anyways, I don't know. I don't know what the number is, but that seems high. And like I said, as a board member, I sit here a little bit like, oh, we had a department. Oh, I don't know we're doing that.
We're talking about in the department.
Yeah, we are. We are.
But
Like I
we
said, and this is
talked
really-
about
this
it.
is a bad time to talk
Maybe
about
you and John talked about it, but we didn't talk about that.
Let me, and I mean no offense by this. Where you been the last 2 weeks? I asked you
I've
to
been
come
doing
in,
an investigation for you,
not for me, for the town.
for the
I'm
town.
telling you that in the last 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, I said, come in, talk to me, call me on the phone, whatever it is. And I would have, if you would have brought these questions to me, I would have given you the answer. So I didn't sabotage you at a town board meeting to tell you that all of a sudden something has changed. You've had these numbers for 2 weeks. I encouraged everybody to talk to me.
I'm not calling it sabotage. I'm calling it. We don't just talk about such things at budget. I mean, budget time's a great time to talk about something, especially if you're adding to the budget. If we're taking away, I assume. But it's a concept that is foreign to at least three of us at this table because, like I said, honest to God, my growth in this whole process was Pat Washington. Okay, we got Jungie. He's going to do all the stuff that he usually does. It's great. And so I'm thinking handyman. And then handyman, boom. And I'm going, what? I mean, and again, so now I'm hearing, oh, well, he's going to be a department head. And then I found out today he's going to have a staff of part-timers.
There already is a staff of people doing these jobs. It's just they would answer to
Answer to
someone else.
Okay.
Other than myself. The exception to that is for the new one that I described as number 5
Mhm.
was a new person. Would be the only change on here is Kevin going from part-time to full-time and adding a person at the bottom. Other than that, everything else that's in there is currently being charged to the A fund.
And he gets benefits now. He wasn't getting benefits before.
If he's a full-time employee, he is entitled to benefits,
Right.
correct?
And I think also that 20,000 that you're adding in is gonna need help. We don't know.
He's
You don't
this
know.
number 5's gonna need help.
I don't know. Kevin, are you gonna need another part-time position? It's an earmark at this point in time. Cause you've got her to going down to the spray park. I mean, he's gotta go down and he's gotta winterize it here. And it's not a 4-hour job. He's gotta go down and winterize it. And as we're finding out, he's gotta go and he's gotta do valve work. It seems like probably it's gonna be every week or every 2 weeks when that thing's open. He's gotta flush out those valves. So it's not just a cutting the grass, watering the flowers kind of thing. And no, I'm not trying to joke. I'm
thinking,
just
oh boy.
pretty good pool boy. But you know, there are other items that are gonna have to be done.
And I
And as we grow,
appreciate that.
as we get into the community center, that's what's gonna be done. And preferably it's not done. Oh, something broke. Oh, the ceiling fell in. Or the community center, we've got problems with the roof that was done. Was it 5 years ago, 6 years ago? That, hopefully buildings and grounds can get on top of it. We have somebody with enough knowledge of how to take care of it. When I come in, I see him a lot of times. He was out here changing the storm windows. He's pulling people out of the code enforcement office to help him because he can't do it himself. You gotta have somebody to hold the board or somebody to do it while you're working.
These windows here haven't been cleaned in probably, what'd you say, Michelle? Jim was still here, wasn't he?
Yeah,
It's
Tom.
gotta be 5-6
Jim,
years.
Yeah.
And I forgot what we paid, but it was several $1,000s. I suggested to Kevin about that and he's like, I'll take care of that. So not only did he take them off and clean them, which the other company did nothing but complain about how to get the scaling off the windows, but he also took the windows and scraped them, reglazed them, and is in the process of painting. So I mean, it's more than just cutting the lawn or throwing some Windex on a piece of glass. It's somebody who actually has a skill set, who knows how to do things and can get things done efficiently.
I think he's talking about fixing this table.
Yeah, you're talking about fixing this table.
I don't doubt that he's very skilled, but I do think, I'm gonna propose something. We go on to our next vote and we table that discussion for the next meeting. And then, I mean, and I wanna be fair to a couple of my board members. They've been dealing with stuff and their inability to come in here and ask questions they've been doing what they can do, and I appreciate that. But if we table this discussion for one more meeting, that's 2 weeks. We can make 3 weeks, we can make a point of asking any questions and figuring this whole thing out. And come back in October and move to preliminary. Is that this, I mean,
I'm fine tabling it. I think it's fine before.
What other questions do you have about the budget? Other than that one much?
I do have a question also about,
Let's settle as much as we can tonight.
on the, finance,
that's right, the first page.
first page.
Here?
Yeah, and that amount, when I look at that amount, going, you know, looking at that is a department head in my plan. It's, I numbered my pages,
Listed under personnel.
and that is a department head?
Yes.
Okay,
It's the Department of One.
okay,
Couple departments.
I think that amount is low.
Well,
And I
that's
see
not,
that you gave it the same percentage of increase. I did figure that. I see that it's the same percentage. I still think that number's low.
I think when we go into executive session, I think we can talk about that.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but John and I we've already talked about
Okay.
this, and that'll be part A of executive session.
Anything else?
I think that's it. That was mine.
Nobody else has any other questions about the budget?
Community center, you got $50,000. Like we talked about that. Is that another front entrance?
The back entrance for that
Back
region.
entrance? No, I think we were talking about another entrance possibly.
That
for
was
the-
for the people downstairs.
Yes. Yeah.
That was, we were using some other money, the money that we had gotten from.
Right.
Because that was something that 3 years ago we had voted on that we would do.
Wanna-
The front or the back?
No, that's the back, that's for the
So they
people
have
who go
the-
downstairs,
For the, right, it's okay.
the Legion,
That's what
right?
That's what I understand.
And I think that is something that, I mean, not to drag this back up, but a full-time buildings now on somebody that has those, that I think. Do the price on that.
Okay.
I've got something, I actually brought this up to John, and I'm sorry, I'm on 5. This is for personnel. This is basically for the staff of highway department. $38,220.
What fund are you in and what's the account?
A,
A fund?
superintendent of highways, right in
Yeah.
the, yep, right underneath.
Mhm.
Okay, and I mentioned this to you. I said, highway works 40 hours a week, and this 220 is 35 hours a week. And I was under the impression, I might have totally heard it wrong, that because it's out of the A fund, that it's 35 or 36 hours a week. But then I heard earlier this evening that you can set it for whatever you want. I think to be fair, to keep her there for 40 hours a week, the highway is open, that number should be moved to 42,640.
So
42,
currently, the highway,
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a page at the top of the page. It says,
you're talking about under superintendent of highways, am I
yes,
correct?
yes.
At the line
Staff.
staff,
Um,
5010.11.
and. Right, so that person, how many hours a week is that person currently working that?
3822 is for 36 hours a week.
Now, how many hours? a
Oh,
week?
is she working right now? Well, she's part-time. She's
About
part-time
how
with
many?
you. I think 35.
No,
No, I don't know. I don't know.
About
You explain
22.
it. What's that?
About 22.
Oh, about 22.
that's a high.
But this, then she works for John too.
Right.
Okay, so what number are you looking for?
I just said, how many hours is she currently working for in
So
that
it's
position?
22.
It's 22.
Oh, and that was it. Okay, got it. Yeah.
So you want to
And
increase
how
that
many hours?
to 40. You want to double that.
No, how many hours does she work for you?
Well, it doesn't matter because this is a separate line.
13.
She works 13, so she's not full-time.
She is.
Oh, she is
22,
full-time.
13. Well, full-time as a two part.
She's a full-time employee.
Does this mean, does this 38 mean that position is going to
Be full-time.
full-time at the highway?
Are you asking me?
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so I mean,
If I'm
it's,
not
put it
mistaken,
down
that
for
was the
35
highway
hours.
superintendent's request.
That was in the request
Okay.
from the
Okay.
department head.
the request was 35 hours
The
No,
request, I
was
believe, was
full-time.
full-time.
Which is how many hours?
Well, it depends. 35 or 40.
I mean, the highway's open 40. I mean, again, it's not like we're saying, oh, yeah, we're up to 38. I mean, it's
Here's the part I don't understand.
what?
Okay. Currently doing 22.
Okay.
You want to go to 40.
You were the one that put her to 36. I mean, the difference between 36 and 40 is
30. Where did 36 go?
this is what you put in the budget. It's not like I'm at
35.
35. I'm sorry. I'm thinking, is it 4 hours? I don't know, whatever you guys.
So my situation is this. There's been a need by a department head that has come forward in the proper channels, which is through the budget request.
Yeah.
For additional staff at the highway department.
Okay.
So we're going from 22 to I have it in the budget for 35. You're saying 40. My point being that why isn't this under the same amount of scrutiny as buildings and grounds?
Because it's $4,000.
So $4,000 doesn't matter?
No, it doesn't. Not that it doesn't matter, but it's like you're
I think that what John's kind of getting to
Well, it's
here
not
is
4,000.
we're going from $20,000 because it's part-time. And we're going up to 42, so we're doubling it,
yeah, which I understand.
going from a part-time
Yeah.
position. to
I
a
mean,
full-time position.
is there enough work for this to be a full-time position?
Yes,
Okay.
we're gonna make her, I want her to be a safety coordinator and to keep on going along with harassment and all that training stuff that she does it all. We do it every year. And she
For
coordinates
the
that.
highway department?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And we coordinate a lot of the safety stuff. So she'll be a safety. So
But-
she'll be taking on more work also.
Can she do it in 35?
It's better than 22.
And can she be a full-timer? Well, she is a full-timer, right?
Yeah,
30.
Yeah, she's already full.
So why don't we leave it at 35?
Okay, I was just bringing it up.
Okay.
I mean,
And then-
the department's open 40 hours a week.
Yeah,
So, I mean, again, if I guess as long as nothing happens Friday afternoon, I guess we're good.
Now, so this person, this particular position went from part-time to full-time. So does she get benefits also? The benefits are added to this?
she's doing it now.
Charity gets
Right.
benefit.
Oh, because she
Because
was
she's a
full-time,
full-time
right,
employee.
okay.
But I don't think that we're talking. And this is. I feel like I'm being petty here, and if I am, I apologize. I'm not trying to be. But we're not talking about a person. We're talking
No,
about, we're
position.
talking about a
I said this-
position.
I said this position.
This position is not eligible for benefits. The person that fills it is because they fill 2 part-time positions. That other part-time position now needs to be filled. So we're taking a position and we're doubling the line item in here and adding benefits to it. Exactly what we're doing, proposing to do with buildings and grounds. I just want to look at
Why
that
would
in the
you do
same
that?
light.
That he only needs 13 hours.
But you're taking a part-time position and you're making it full-time. And you're doubling the rate that you're paying 22 hours at that rate. Now you're going to full-time, and you're adding benefits to it. So you are
But it's already
doubling
getting
that line.
benefits.
Wasn't
No,
he
no,
getting
no,
benefits
it's not
before?
getting benefits because it's a part-time position. You're talking that person gets benefits because they're filling two part-time positions. If that person only filled this position, we're talking about a position, not a person. This position does not get benefits.
This one does though.
Now that it goes full-time, it does get benefits. And we're not cutting the pay rate. We're increasing the pay rate.
Right.
What are we increasing? The 5% that you,
No, this is
Put in.
going from 2280 to 38,220. Because this position was part-time here and part-time there,
Yes.
correct?
Well,
two
no,
different
the
rates?
part-time, the position is only part-time. The person who was filling that position is filling two part-time positions. Do you see, understand what I'm
But
saying?
this person's going to full-time at highway. This position is going to be full-time at highway.
Yes, yes.
Right.
But so we're doubling that pay line at highway and adding benefits to it at the same pay rate. So you're not, I know what you're gonna say, this person already gets the benefits at that reduced rate. But what I'm saying is you're doubling that cost
This
and that line, yes.
Right, okay.
And, but that's because
does she
they're,
get paid for
because
different rates right now?
Yes,
Oh, she
they're,
gets paid a different rate for your job.
per hour.
yes.
Oh,
And
okay, I
there's
didn't
been
understand.
there has been a need identified
Mhm.
to go from part-time to full-time. Okay, and to what John is saying, right now it's going, oh, okay. But through the buildings and grounds with the same condition, you're looking blindsided to where you're not blindsided at this.
My point, I don't mean to cut you off, but my point was only that they're open 40 hours. Why isn't she working 40
No,
hours?
no, I get that, but what I'm
That's all
saying
my
is
point
this
is.
position's getting, without any explanation, we're doubling it. And there was no request to double it. It's
It was
going
a
from
request
part-time
for
to.
a full-time,
Oh,
is
but
what
it's,
John said,
okay,
right?
but it's the
Right,
exact
it's
same
department
description in this
request.
line. There is no description in this line. It's the exact same description that's in the buildings and grounds.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
That position was full-time before it was cut to part-time.
Okay,
So now we're putting it back to where it belongs.
okay,
So,
I get that. but what I'm
so
saying
we're
is
not doing, so you're not, no, it was here, it was cut to here, now it's back to where it belongs. So it was cut and now it's put back. So the budget always, it's actually substantially lower than what the full-time position was before she came in.
Right.
You're gonna pay her, whatever it is, 35 or 42. I think the person before that was making 60 something.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, I'm not talking, I'm talking the doubling of the hours in from 2023 to 2024.
I'm just going back to the position.
I get that and I respect that. I'm just saying, I don't understand why the doubling of the part-time buildings and grounds to full-time was a lot of discussion and the
This is a
doubling
lot
of
more
the,
money.
but it's twice, it's
But-
twice the amount.
But you're looking at it differently than I'm looking at it.
Okay.
There's already been a determination that she will be full-time at highway. That numbers, it bears out right
That's
there.
proposed. That is.
No, I know, but I'm saying, but no one's said, oh my God, there's no way she can go to full-time. I was just suggesting 40 hours. Again, if that's beyond.
No, I'm
And
fine
again,
with that.
I was perfectly satisfied with the answer a couple days ago, but earlier in this meeting, we said, out of the A fund, they can make as many hours as you want. I'm saying, why not have her there for every hour that everyone else is there? But again, if it seems like I'm being a little too frugal or I'm not being frugal with building the grounds, I apologize for that
No,
appearance.
no, I'm
But
just
we're
wondering
talking
the
nickels
difference,
on the
yeah.
dollar. Again, I mean, do you want me to jump up and down?
No, that's not, I'm
I
trying to, because we're talking from 22 And now we're going up to
We're
42,
talking from 35. Is what
which
I
is
suggested.
proposed,
You're
right?
talking hours.
Yeah. Hours.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what, is it you feel I'm being hypocritical, that I'm advocating for this particular employee and not for another employee? I don't
No,
understand.
I'm just curious of why doubling the line in this one
Well, it's
is
not
different than
actually
doubling the line. It is doubling because 2023, we're at $22 for 22,000.
We're not. We're at 2280.
I'm looking at staff in 2023. 20,280.
Right. That's not 22.
Forgive me.
No,
And now we're talking about going to 38.
Right.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, that's an issue now because I said, why not make her full-time? Like.
No. I'm just asking of why in the suggestion of going from part-time to full-time is suitable in this without a lot of discussion, where we're in the discussion of going from
Because
part-time
you're
to full-time.
creating
to-
a department
But the
versus a position that used to be,
okay.
that's a whole different thing. We're creating something new,
I respectfully disagree.
okay?
Well, I mean, obviously, this is something that everyone agreed on because it's in the budget. Like I said, I mean,
Whoa, what?
this seemed like everyone agreed that she's going full-time to highway.
Who said that?
It's in the budget.
Well, that's me.
No, I'm, again, I understand this is your budget and we have to move to.
This is now it's when you get to say,
Yeah.
no, we don't need a full-time person.
Okay, yeah.
Or yes, we think this is a good idea and she should work 35 or 40 hours. And if 3 people agree to it, then that's the way it goes.
Well,
I believe
that's what I'm saying, but someone
I believe they
suggested
need
me.
somebody there. Andy has said they need somebody there. I trust his knowledge of what she does.
Well, clearly John does too, because he's
Right,
there.
put her in there, or put this position in there at full time. I shouldn't say her, excuse me.
Right, because
Is all, I think, Tom, I don't know, I shouldn't speak for Tom. You would like to see her at 40 hours.
I'm just saying the department's open 40 hours a week. I mean,
So
if
what
she
you
was.
saying?
but-
Tell me what you're
No,
saying.
the department's open 40 hours. Why shouldn't the assistant be there 40 hours a week with the staff? That's
Would
literally
that
my
be
question.
beneficial to you?
It'd be fine. Either way.
Okay.
I did not put a concise, and I apologize. So
No.
that you distilled it down.
we have a lot of departments in this town that are employees are either share positions or are one person departments. Not everyone is in a situation where they have multiple employees in a specific department. For instance, we have part-time people at town hall who work here, but they also are not here. The
The whole
35
time.
hours, the town hall
Right,
is open
Mhm.
to the public.
Well, and I think it's prudent to be consistent with office type work, to have everybody working the same, if they're full-time, the same amount of hours. Which is what is 35, right?
Not a highway. Highway's 40.
No, but I mean in a,
Oh,
in
yeah.
an administrative role.
I mean, I would never propose someone
Right.
that works at town hall. You gotta work.
No,
you gotta work 40 hours.
That's what I'm
because
saying. I'm just saying to have
Yeah.
consistency. If we have people in administrative roles in the town, the town hall.
Who
we
should,
Okay,
I
so
have
that,
a question, and I just need an answer. Who should set the highway department staff hours?
you're looking at them. 4 or 5 of us.
Okay.
On to another one,
Mhm.
just
Sure.
for the sake of
Yeah.
time.
Yep,
and effort.
yep.
So what are your other concerns besides those two?
Don't think I had any.
utilities jumped from
Do you have a
26 to
page number?
44.
No,
The next page.
I don't have the-
Yeah, I might do the number
From
from
851, 851.32.
1 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah, 851.32, 413. Could you please explain that again? It's a $18,000 jump
right here.
in garage utilities.
Are you asking John?
John,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah. well,
I'm sorry, I didn't realize
John, could you
it was
explain that
addressed to
again, please?
So
The jump.
this was in inadequacy of the utilities. As you can see, the first 6 months of the year, we spent $22,080. So that was that gray water was one of the I think was the big item on there. That should have been charged to A instead of DA. In the 2023 budget, it was charged to DA. So we addressed that in this situation. And there again, that there's some fairly significant changes in the budget here. So I mean, because I get it from Tom, from you, as you're looking at what was in 23 budget versus 24 budget. So I expect you have others that you're concerned about.
And I raised them to you. I had a lot of questions answered when I met with you.
Summer Road Sports Facility went from 3,000 to 50,000.
Yes, we're building a field and we're working on the other fields. I asked you that in our meeting. Yeah, we talked about that. I saw Summer Road.
That's Dries
improvement- Dries Back. Oh, I'm sorry, Summer.
This is Summer Road. This is the other side. I just, all I'm looking for is consistency. Is if what you're concerned is what's changed, that's great. And I'm more than happy to discuss any of it in length with you. But I'm asking for consistency from the board
I mean,
to say, okay, we're concerned with everything that's had more than a 10% increase, for instance. Okay, let's go down through and let's hit every item on here. But I feel like it's certain things are being cherry picked for some reason.
I do remember you talking about the improvements on Drysbeth Field, Field.
that was like
And
Yeah,
so
that's
that number did not shock you.
the $60,000, and that's playground improvement, I believe.
I don't know. You started talking about Semmel. She started talking about Dreisbach.
Sorry.
Dries Bach, $60,000. Yes, we're working on the fields. Okay, and I remember talking about that in the meeting. I think I highlighted it, so I must have mentioned it in the meeting. But I think you said playground improvements.
Yes,
Yeah, we're going to be putting rubber stuff down instead of the old
Yeah,
wood stuff.
we talked about
The
that.
rubber.
we talked about that.
Yeah, so then I highlighted it and we asked about it. I mean, again, I'm trying to be as consistent as I can, and I'm certainly not cherry picking things, but I mean, I had questions and I asked the questions. If I'm not asking enough questions.
What do you think about the amount of fund balance that we're using in the 2024 budget versus the 2023 budget? It's not on there. I'll save you the trouble.
It's not on here?
Not the 23, unless you have the 23 budget.
No. Find that information.
Well, you'd have to open up the 23 budget. So, and I'm trying to be constructive here, but if you're going to look at, if your concern is dollar figures, the appropriated fund balance in the current year's budget is 626,000. And now we're going to over $1 million. Why? How come? Can we afford to do this? To be honest with you, those are the questions that I ask myself when I put this budget together. And I'll be honest with you, it's alarming to me.
Alarming that no one caught that.
Well, the level of minutia that board seems to be concerned with versus what I see as the important information from the top down.
And
Excuse me.
I can only speak for myself. I start going through this from page one and I don't know where that fund balance is on here. I have the 23 budget here and I'm looking for it
If
quickly.
if it's an important piece of information, then slap it on page one or.
It is.
You said the 23 number isn't on.
Well, no, it isn't. That's 24 number. But one of the things I do when I'm preparing the budget, I
So
sit
we're
down
looking
and
at the appropriated fund balance right here.
I sit down and I look at the 23 budget, the 24 budget, and I'm comparing the appropriations. I'm comparing the revenues. I'm comparing the fund balance and the reserves that we're using. And then, of course, the to be raised, which is the bottom line of all the above. Because quite frankly, if I, for instance, have put too much appropriated fund balance into the budget, we don't have enough money for any of this discussion about the difference between the net pay of between 35 and 40 hours.
I did not look at the 23 one when I looked at this one. And that's on me.
But I don't think that's criticism of kind of taking the magnifying glass to numbers that are in this budget. This is what we presented last week. So we look at the future. Oh no, I'll keep this for next year and I'll look at the appropriated fund balance. But again, I don't see that as a valid way of saying, well, you're really getting in the weeds on this right here, and it's only $20,000. So that's what you gave us, and that's what we evaluated. So
No, you have to evaluate what you're comfortable evaluating.
yeah. All right.
So we're tabling this for now?
Well, we have to go into
No, we're tabling.
Still have a whole meeting to do.
We have to finish this. I understand. We're tabling this particular.
I think you need to get into.
This was just a discussion, correct?
Yeah. I mean, if you.
There's no resolution there.
For the.
No, but that's not, yeah.
Yeah, but we haven't even gotten to the preliminary budget. We've
No,
only
it
done
shows
the
a
discussion.
resolution number for number 10.
I'm taking it out.
So we're
Yeah, I
taking.
think that-
Okay, then you don't have, I mean, there's a way to table it.
Now, there was no motion.
What's that? No, I know, but
There's no
there's a way
motion.
to table it.
So,
Well, I think
Well-
that would be for number 11.
but no further budget discussion. Am I correct?
So number 11.
So number 11 is the
Not in this meeting.
So
number 11 preliminary budget. We're tabling. Am I correct?
so the motion would be to table the 2024 town budget
No, second,
Wait,
the table.
for number 11.
Moved it. I'm sorry.
Brett,
Thank you.
and then I said,
Okay, thank you.
Number 12, schedule public
wait, we
hearing.
didn't vote.
Aye.
So everybody's in?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
Schedule a public hearing for the 2024 budget.
No sense in doing that.
Move this, table that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Veterans Day lunch. Discussion.
Set that up, Alicia. Was that Cindy?
Mhm.
I would say that I would suggest that this is tabled. There's no line in the budget that assumes that we're going to be doing it.
There is no,
Because
we haven't voted on it. Okay.
Bond number 14, schedule a public hearing for the capital improvement plan. That we table. Capital improvement plan is tied to the 2024 budget.
Second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next, reconciliation of 284.
I'll make a motion to accept the reconciliation of the 284 agreement between the town board and the highway superintendent as per the highway superintendent's compilation of material.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
We have that.
Yeah,
We have-
I saw it earlier.
This was tabled last month.
Or was it the one we had from last month? I have that one.
I don't have anything beyond that.
So what are we waiting up for? Numbers?
I know that, John, I think you said something about you had a concern about letter C. On this one,
Yes.
Fontainebleau. That shall be expended not over the sum of $15,181.50, which seems way out of line with all the other numbers. Is that correct? It's out of line?
Mhm.
Okay. Is that not the number?
It's not the number I submitted.
Oh, what did you say?
I submitted right here is the, from Soup Coat that came to me. It was submitted at $3,405.30. If you were to do the math without that number, go all the way down A through F, add it up, you will come up with a number. That number will not match number one above in general repairs.
With the correct number.
It won't match the total sum of all those jobs. If you add it up with my number, it adds up to exactly that. So somewheres
Oh,
after it left my office, it was changed, clerical mistake. Somehow something happened there. It's so whatever the question is, I cannot answer that, but the original number is right here that I got from Soup Coat, dated 7/18/22 for $3,405.30, which is about $500-600 under. I think it was maybe 800 under that job.
okay, so,
All my jobs came in way under because of the asphalt index. It's 30% lower than when I estimated these jobs,
Okay.
along with the escalation rate was lower. So if you look
Bless
at,
you.
I asked in an email of what exactly was expected. I did get a response. My response was, simply put something on paper, which I have done. If there was something more formal or more proof or whatever, I was more than happy, but I don't know what we're looking for here. If you're looking for answers as to why my numbers are on F, G, and H are substantially lower, I can go through each one of them for you if you would like.
so the actual amount you should have been the 64,000 for letter F.
That's letter F that's what I paid. That's what the actual job was. That's escalation. If you take 30% of the take 30% of the asphalt index and lower it, you'll come really close to that number.
Okay.
On Assembly Drive, that road was closed.
Mhm.
So the contractor got done doing the gutter work in a day and a half. So I said, instead of having him refurb it, we did. Saved a lot of money per linear foot by doing that and leaving the road closed for a day or so instead of, I didn't know if I'd be able to get back to it. I didn't want the road closed for a week or 2 weeks. So we got it done. I think the road was open in less than 5 days.
Okay.
So we were able to go in there and save some money doing that. And once again, 30% asphalt index and all the blacktop. And then if you go to the last one, that one was the road width varied. So I took the average of the widest spots. I did my blacktop with those numbers. We paved it at a narrower, instead of 22 foot, we paved it at 21 and a half. So that brought down the blacktop. That brought down the speed of, we could go faster, further per truck. So we got the mill out of there in a lot less time. I had it rented for 2 days. We got it out of there or not the mill, the paver in a day. And once again, 30% was estimated. At the time I estimated it, the asphalt prices were 30% higher than what they were when we did the job. So I can't look into the future to get it perfect, but as long as the way I understand 284, as long as I'm under, we're in good shape. Last year, I believe the year before, it was really crazy. I had to come back and say, I have a feeling we're going to go over, so we need to readjust this, and we were able to. But other than reconciling, I mean, if you want to talk about it anytime throughout the job, feel free. I just feel as though, I mean, I tried to get it all done before June because that gets you. July is when the asphalt starts going up. So the guys work their tails off to get everything done in June. And also on that last job, the tack coat truck broke. So he didn't spray any tack coat. So I didn't have to pay for tack coat. Is it good or bad? I don't know. Some people love it, some people hate it. So, but it was broken. We had blacktop and a paver there, so we went. So that was also a little bit of a lower cost. That's why that came in under.
But this letter C is a mistake.
On letter C is a mistake on clerical after it left my office.
Okay.
So basically, you don't have a crystal ball. You don't know what's gonna happen.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do.
Best job guessing. We're under, and those are the reasons why you're under.
Yep.
In my mind, that's what reconciliation is,
Me too.
Me too.
correct?
Mhm. Yeah. I just want to make sure.
And I'm not saying I don't trust the highway department. I'm just saying in here as being the fiducial board. Now you're explaining to us, I understand, I'm good with it. I just would like to know and.
Could have been just asked last time and I could have explained all that to you. And the last three were also, we've never reconciliated them. And I've talked to a few other people who are like, we don't know we're not sure what he's looking for. So I asked. Simply put numbers on a piece of paper. We already did that.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
think maybe hey, the asphalt index was low.
Yeah.
That's why we're looking lower.
Yep.
Cool.
Great. Well, this cover sheet, Andy,
Yes.
you know where that came from?
This cover sheet,
This one here?
it came from your office has it. I turned numbers in and someone in your office or however it gets put onto this. And then there was some stuff that was redundant in there. So it was redone from my understanding. It was permanent and non-permanent. And all of your 5112, these are all permanent because they're chips jobs and they're oil and stone permanent for 6 years or so. It's not like I have to come back to it. So I'm not sure 100% where that mistake came from.
No, I don't either. And that was my original question.
It could be a copy and paste thing that was just,
It might have been a
clerical.
number from the year before. like
That's what I'm
you said.
thinking. It was like copy and
it
paste.
wasn't from the year before.
I might have made that mistake myself.
It was or
It
wasn't.
was not from the year before because I'd searched back two of them and then I'm like, I'm not even looking at whatever. It's not.
But it's
All right, so
reconciled
do
now.
we have to vote on this? Or did we already do? it?
No,
We didn't go.
Michelle, did we vote on it?
There's a motion and a second.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, purchase truck parts.
I'd like to make a motion for permission to purchase parts for truck 97 from Kenworth Northeast, not to exceed $5,870.60 from account DA 51304.
Second.
Any discussion?
Andy, how old is that? Oh, you're not getting ready. You're just purchasing parts.
That's a 13 or 14-year-old truck.
Well, one of these parts then.
Rust.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is executive session. Is there a motion to go move into executive session?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
okay. To,
Before there's a motion to adjourn.
oh, we have public comment.
We
Oh,
haven't,
okay.
we haven't had an executive session yet because we haven't voted on it.
Oh, we all have vote. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
And that's.
I'm sorry. I talked to the supervisor from Wheatland. And I told her that I understood that somebody was leaving there to come here. Was not my intention to sabotage you. I did it out of friendship for her. Because I was under the impression that I would be, that if the shoe was on the opposite foot, then I'd want to know. Obviously, she didn't keep that information confidential and it came back to bite you in the town of Mendon. I'm sorry. They've told me that I made a mistake and I want it on the record.
I took no offense to it really.
I'm sorry. It won't,
Not a problem.
so I apologize.
Apology accepted.
All right,
Public comment.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Oh, wait.
I
Wait.
make a motion.
I'm just gonna let everybody motion that somebody didn't include us. All right, we're done. At 11:01.